Welcome, everyone. This is Pilot Niels, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at latest in LOTRO and hear LOTRO players. And this week, I'm joined by Krister.
Hello.
And Sanswinda.
Hello, everybody.
Hello there. Did everyone have a great week in LOTRO?
It
It was pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
All right. Let's go and start this episode by looking at some of Krister's favorite things. Release notes.
Wow.
At least they're relatively short.
Oh, even better.
Where is that?
Proceed.
Okay. Release notes for update 45.3. Of special note, the Angmar and Mordor servers now have a new level cap. Our legendary worlds of Angmar and Mordor now have a level cap of level 75 and the inclusion of content from Isengard to the Great River. You can read more about the legendary worlds at LOTRO.com, and the Tower of Orthanc instance will become available for play at 1 p.m. on Thursday, August 28th, which would have been a couple of days ago. So we have the updated level cap there, and if you're into raiding the Tower of Orthanc instance. Now, also news and noteworthy, for festivals and events, in the Egg Scramble, the drop rates for the white eggs have been slightly increased once again to aid in completing the quest, and resolved an issue with the Farmer's Fair quest in Kick Out the Cave Claws that caused players to not be able to loot the den if they kicked a second cave claw too quickly. In the Farmer's Fair quest, Kick Out the Cave Claws, multiple players will no longer be able to kick the same cave claw. You will no longer be haunted by gathering guests weekly trying to bestow to you when the Midsummer Festival is not in progress. When the Midsummer Festival returns, this quest will be bestowed by Captain Hatapos and will no longer be bestowing remotely. And as for the Ring Wraith event, innervating gripped visual effects will no longer get stuck on players. And Amelia's Barter now offers a set of level 75 essences. As for PvP, the Fire and Frost lore debuff applied to lore masters will no longer build hidden stacks on a target. When an active Fire and Frost lore effect is cleansed, it will be removed entirely and will not be allowed to be suppressed a version to rise up. Alright, so let's go to general notes then. The Legacy client has been discontinued. If you have the Legacy client selected, you will be prompted to select a new game client when launching the game. You may change which game client you are using from the launcher in the menu options general. There is still the newer 32-bit client as well as the 64-bit client that is available. When they're talking about the legacy client, they're talking this old 32-bit client that's needed if you are running in Vista or lower.
Yep.
For the Rift of Nurzganzu, Gashu is the Tower Orthanc Dragok's Lair, and the Throne of Dread Terror. Traditional raid locks will now reset 3 times per week on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. Other instances with thrice weekly traditional raid locks, such as Karn Doom and Dar Narvagud, have been switched to Monday, Thursday, and Saturday resets rather than Monday, Wednesday, and Friday resets. Birds can now be discovered properly in the Rohan housing neighborhoods, the Cape of Belfalis, and North Ithilien. Okay, that is good because I know that in the...
I want to know how birds were being improperly discovered.
I will assume they
what does that encompass?
Or
I'm
improperly
assuming
not
that they're saying
discovered.
they're not being discovered at all for some reason.
That's
The birds just wouldn't go to the housing neighborhoods, I guess.
sounds like smart birds.
Why, you think there are lots of hobbits there trying to hunt the birds?
Oh, heck yeah. If you're a bird flying towards a hobbit place, you're probably going, hey, I'm going to be a pie soon.
Okay. I suppose there's a point to that.
I was thinking maybe HOAs in Middle Earth actually communicated with the animals. Birds, please stay away. We washed all the houses already.
How much money? How much birdseed you got?
Oh, wait, the HOAs actually did something?
I don't know. But clearly whatever it was that was going on that kept the birds away, the birds are now back. Or now appearing.
Okay.
Now discoverable.
Yeah. Now let's get. Yes. Beornings, Brawlers, and Lore Masters incomparable armors from the Tower of Orthanc now correctly require you to complete different bosses from the raid before they can be equipped. Lalia's market barter prices for Hedgehog Barrow, Gondorian Supplier Horn, Ingredients Crate, and Premium Ingredients Crate housing decorations have been increased to better correspond to the pricing in the LOTRO store. In the LOTRO store, the LOTRO point prices for many housing decorations have been reduced to better correspond with barter pricing in Lalia's market. For Isengard equipment sets, Mariner's Dragok armor and the Serpent's Bite now has a set bonus. Beorning armor sets of the Tower Smasher and Echoing Roar now have the correct equipment pieces associated with them. And Beorning and Brawler Orthanc sets now have 2 class-based bonuses matching the sets other classes can acquire. And Burglar's Gamble Chance upgrade no longer implies that it can affect the deprecated debuffing gamble. As for miscellaneous things, for localization, German translations for the subtitles Sublime Stalwart, Dragon Slayer, and Adept Slayers will now display properly. And for French translations in the titles Farmer, Wanderer of the Free City, Proud will now display properly. And that is it for the release notes for 45.3.
That wasn't too bad.
Okay.
Just feel a little sweaty. You know, my stomach's upset just a little bit. That wasn't too bad.
That might have been the bird pies, Krister.
Ah, yes, of course. Now, concerning the Farmer's Fair, because of those adjustments they made to the Farmer's Fair and because some people were having trouble getting the white eggs they needed to complete the quest, they've decided to extend the Farmer's Fair until September 8th. So we have another week in which to get all the goodies we need from the Farmer's Fair.
Or to simply just look good at the Farmer's Fair.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose there's that too.
Well, now, I've seen your outfits, so I'm really talking about myself.
Right, there's no hope for me looking to look good at the Farmer's Fair. Next, we have some information about the closure of the 32-bit game world, because you'll note that this is the last episode of this show in August, which means that we are going to be seeing them go goodbye before we have our next episode. As we approach the end of August, we want to provide formal timing and other related information about the closure of our 32-bit game worlds. Free transfers from our 32-bit to our 64-bit game worlds will be temporarily disabled at 11:59:59 Eastern on Tuesday, September 2nd. So that means that starting at midnight, September 3rd, you will no longer be able to transfer from the 32-bit worlds to the 64-bit game worlds. So that's sort of like when you're expected to have your characters off by then. And they want to make sure that they're going to close the transfers at that time so that they know that the transfer queues are all cleared out before they completely close down the server on there. And the ability to log into our 32-bit game worlds will end at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, September the 3rd. And of course, these are all at U.S. Eastern Time. Transfers will return from 32-bit worlds to 64-bit worlds when these worlds reopen as dark worlds. And you'll be able to transfer from, but not log into, these dark worlds in the future. We will have more information about the timing of these dark world transfers soon. And any customers with outstanding tickets or other transfer-related issues will continue to receive support from customer service, and we will continue to work with you to resolve any transfer-related concerns that they have. And yeah, that could still be a little bit of a problem here because deadline is getting very, very tight on handling all of those outstanding tickets. So that means that we have until the end of Tuesday. And of course, the reason why it's not literally ending on August 31st, as was originally announced, is because no one's plans to go into work on Labor Day in order to shut down the servers.
That's a pretty good reason, honestly.
Yes. All right, so that's in for the closure of the 32-bit worlds. Now, in community news, Scenario and Celestra Bloodsong had a Q&A session with Deco de Milieu, and we have here a summary of what was said during them. First off, concerning developers, Scenario is no longer the sole individual taking care of housing. Celestra Bloodsong is the product. So apparently he's got some assistants there now. Celestra Bloodsong is the product manager assisting Scenario. She has worked for Trine Worlds, Archetype, and other indie companies. She works with behaviors, purchasing powers, budgets, and data collection on what players are interested in. Lord of the Rings Online is sort of the game that everyone has worked on or returns to after being away for a period of time. That is something. There is someone that comes back for the expansion. Oh, there is someone that came back. Oh, for the expansion. Okay. Housing. There was a problem with people stockpiling housing writs with nothing to spend them on. With the current pace of releasing new neighborhoods, there should be something more that they can buy. They wanted to make more flexible currency, so they weren't spending a whole housing writ, on a single tree or something like this. That's the reason why they replaced housing writs with those new housing coins that they have, is so that they could be able to use those as a currency for buying housing furnishings and things like that. Now, the conversation to homesteading coins wasn't something. Oh, that's our homesteading coin. In the next bullet point, they talk about homesteading. Wasn't something that they developed sporadically. They planned it out, and they want to continue supporting the idea as time goes on. The idea of supporting Lalia's market for options was a way to keep the players inside the game with something that they can interact with. Scenario managed to add most of the items from the LOTRO store into Lalia's market, other than a few unconventional packs like the River Hobbit bundles. I don't think I've spent much time in Lalia's market since it was revamped. He wants to make it a home for player requests with regular additions over time. They don't want it to be just an MTX experience. I'm not too sure what MTX is.
Me neither. That's what I dislike about the modern era is we have too many 3-letter acronyms.
Yeah, I have a lot of trouble with 3-letter acronyms. So, I mean, even at work where I've been there for 30 years, it's like, what does that acronym stand for? Yes, there are actual world characters in there, despite still not having a way to preview decorations. Scenario did manage to scale down and throw some of the artwork for the decorations in there. All right. And they thought about adding others like the curator into the environment, but felt that the community has grown accustomed to the locations of the Boar Fountain. Relocating would only cause confusion at this point.
They could put adventurers somebody in there, though. We still need an easy to access one. I'm just saying, the one place that you can... Okay, the two places you cannot find your end-game adventurers gear barter, the Bree area, or end-game, which is what the gear is for.
Yeah, we could use a little bit of help in that department. The problem is that endgame keeps on moving, and so therefore, having a...
That's why I think they should put one in Bree. I mean, I think putting it in all the new in-games would make sense too, but for sure one in Bree.
Yeah, you want it to keep moving too anyways, Pine Leaf, or it'll end. You don't want end game to actually end.
Well,
but
I suppose
you want to
so.
keep it a moving, target. So
barter for your end game gear at end game. So they should continue to place somebody in the end game areas, even when they add new ones.
It was like, see, I don't think many people understand this too, but after Aragorn, is crowned king and all that stuff, he still had to go to Rohan and clean out the stalls. So it just never ends.
Well, I suppose so. Next section. Engineers needed. Being able to purchase more than one house, whether it be another classic or kinship house, is something that Scenario cannot do alone. He needs assistance and time. Although developers were concerned about making players choose between what kinship to own when developing the Rohan homestead, they sort of stepped back from the idea when releasing the future neighborhoods. Scenario would love to borrow the engineering team for a year to work exclusively on housing, but they have other things to worry about, like the 64-bit servers and the kinship system and the like. Scenario has developed a prototype for an unlockable hook pack on the test server, but he can only go so far without engineering support. They would also have to consider what type of hooks, where they could be placed, and what more they can do with them. The design team can only work with the tools the engineer team provides. They are a shared resource for Standing Stone Games. We would need help from the engineers to make slots within the decorations possible. And although one of the biggest decoration requests, being able to have a dice style interaction for walls and floors, would take a considerable effort, it would not be possible to use carry-alls in this situation. engineers would be needed. In other words, there are all these little cases where people are asking for stuff, but the engineers that would be needed in order to do the work are currently working on other stuff. As for other concepts, there is so much to say about the concept of open world housing. Even with the current instance version of the game, players are constantly asking that for houses in different locations. The frustration comes with how competitive the environment would get to fighting for over spaces. They have seen what happens, scenario in Asherton's Call and Celestra in Arcade. It would only cause more problems in The Lord of the Rings Online. Open world housing? You mean where there's only one copy of each house in the world?
I cannot think that would be a good idea.
Yeah,
I would be okay if it was like ESO, where like the house is in one location and everybody can buy it. But
yeah,
I don't
so no,
like. I would much rather continue to have our instance neighborhoods.
yeah. Well, okay, instance neighborhoods. So in ESO you have instanced houses, and yes, in LOTRO you have instanced neighborhoods. I would hope that maybe someday maybe we could have an instanced house or something like that. But I am sure that we'll go back to the previous section about engineers would be needed to implement this.
I think engineers would be needed, but I would much rather that than just one copy of that house for everybody to fight over.
Yeah, boy.
That would be horrible.
It would be a bloodbath, that's for sure. It'll be worse than trying to be the first on a sale on Black Friday.
Yeah. I mean, like, Final Fantasy XIV has instance housing neighborhoods like LOTRO does, but they don't have nearly enough houses for all the players to have one, and that causes lots of problems.
Okay.
Well, if you want a house. I don't know if it causes problems for the dev team.
Well, the dev teams are the ones who are constantly getting pinged
Probably.
about, hey, I want this house. I want this house. I want this. Why can't I get a house? Why can't I get a house? Can you maybe build another house here that somebody's going to beat me to when I return?
Right? Anyway, I really appreciate that in LOTRO it is possible to get a house.
Okay. The biggest fear for open world housing is what happens when they need to change the server architecture. What happens when the environment changes and people aren't able to retrieve their items and things like that. Also, the framework at least exists when it comes to customizing a Blink mannequin with a cosmetic set, but we don't have any appropriate UI interface available for it. Speaking as developers, allow players to switch out types of doors is excruciatingly difficult. The styles of doors are physically different than each other. Even copying the concept of a door from one spot to another doesn't always work. If anything, they could maybe have a player switch out the texture.
That sounds like fun.
They had a meeting about quests and rewards specifically made for inside neighborhoods. And both Scenario and Celestate agree that balconies would be very hard to work into housing with the current system. They are not confident that they could be able to make something that is satisfactory to the players. I guess when you're saying balconies, you mean like outdoor balconies, so that if you're inside the house, don't they have something like that in Erebor housing?
Yeah, I think it works because you can't necessarily see it from all the other houses.
Ah, okay, because of the way.
Because they're kind of like the yards.
Right.
But I don't know that it would work very well in, like, the Belfast neighborhood.
Okay. And
I
all
know
the
for sure
creep
it wouldn't
houses.
work in the Hobbit neighborhood.
Okay, yeah.
Well, would they really be balconies in a Hobbit neighborhood? It'd be more like a shelf, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, and they don't have upstairs typically at all. I mean, their upstairs is like the main level, and then it goes downstairs instead of up. Anyway, sorry for interrupting.
Okay. And although creep housing is something we definitely thought about, we have no idea when or if it will happen.
I still think it'd
oh,
be
that would
fun.
be brilliant.
We need the sofa
My Warg is
pits.
a real estate tycoon.
The sofa pits.
So long as we can have lots and lots of sofas for creep housing when it finally comes. My Warg needs sofa pits.
Pitted sofas. All right. Future ideas. Scenario was thinking about yesterday how they would be able to implement past reward track items into the game. They can consider adding them to Lalia's Market, barters, or other reward structures.
That's a good idea.
Okay, because Scenario's plate is always full, retrofitting previous neighborhoods with new features such as light slots or fences is usually out of reach. He would need time to work on these things. As those neighborhoods were not built for those features in mind, the property lines aren't perfectly square and several things like that. And I suspect also some engineers would be needed.
Probably.
Yeah. The original idea of universal hooks was merely a way to make interior hook functions as a somewhat exterior environment when it came to the Erebor kinship houses. They have almost consolidated hooks to the point of becoming universal with the exception of walls and furniture. While Scenario can do some work, he has to make sure to do so carefully so things don't explode.
You go to place a picture in a floor slot and all of a sudden the whole server is down.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen. They can leverage more mobile hooks in future neighborhoods, but classic houses aren't likely going to change. We would like to finish developing our next housing before asking the questions for what comes after. In other words, I presume this is in response to somebody asking about what's the next housing after Rivendell. Scenario knows several great locations, including an idea for apartments around Bree that he's planned ahead of time when making some changes for the legendary servers.
Nice.
That's where Krister would live, honestly.
Or in the apartments in Bree?
Yep, his hometown's Bree. He always goes to Bree.
Okay.
And if we had apartments there, that'd be another great reason to have an adventurer's quartermaster.
And I would have an apartment right next to that lady who has come out on her balcony over and over again. There's a balcony, by the way.
Well, actually, it's not a balcony. That's actually just a window that she opens every once in a while.
Oh, that's true. You're right. Okay. I like my memory of it better than your reality of it.
Oh, well, I suppose there isn't much difference in that style of house between a balcony and an open window in any case. Scenario describes housing as a sticky gameplay that compels players to continue playing the game. Celestrata relates to the different psychological aspects of housing, and they want to develop features for all types of players. And they look at player activity, their satisfaction with what is available, and how much they engage with the system to determine what other features that they can add to the game.
So we should all go decorate our house.
Speaking of decorations, this next section. When looking at home items and restrictions hooks to have, the team has a plan, design, and implement accordingly. Adding small items to big houses is not generally a good idea, for example. Scenario has heard requests for moving items and hooks in all directions and finds it a great way to bring new life to the old decorations. What gets released depends on the current narrative of the game. There has to be synergy with rewards in the expansion bundles, furnishers, crafting, and other delivery methods. They can consider various themes if there is ever a time that they incorporate a fill in the gaps region. We add supporter packs on occasion with some really cool assets, with a new one being released in the next week or two. Yeah, and in fact, Cordovan was a guinea pig on testing to see whether or not they were being delivered properly. So what they do is some of the employees are given a code for as a supporter pack, in advance of releasing, so they type in the code and see is it properly is it properly sent and all that stuff. And then Cordovan has to remember for the next couple of weeks not to open the package on air. Scenario has developed a spreadsheet of all the decorations players have requested online and picks certain ones out when appropriate. Some of them have shown up in the past few years in the reward track, Lollius Market, and regions. Foliage sets of trees and bushes is a big request. Many of these objects that people point out they want as a decoration can be a collection of 20 different entities mashed together. It would be up to the art team, not Scenario, to make a single entity with all these assets combined. And fountains and water volume are two different things. In order to have water properties, the volume water has to be a rectangle in shape. Okay. Now, Rivendell housing. Mobile hooks have 3 limitations: up and down, east and west, and vertical. They have to be careful when it comes to east and west, or left and right, so the decorations don't leave the property. Consideration has to be made for vertical, so players don't see their neighbors with a bunch of decorations in the sky.
Aww.
And maybe that's the aesthetic they're going for.
It's an elvish magical place. Come on now.
They can adjust the limits so long as it isn't possible for players to rocket their things high in the sky or circumnavigate the system. They do not have a developer wanting to take a stab at housing system for Rivendell neighborhoods. Oh, they do have a developer wanting to take a stab at the housing. Yes, the biggest challenge is learning what has changed over the 15 or so years since it last worked on classic housing.
There has been a bunch of changes. Thank you guys for making all those changes.
Yes. One current struggle is lining up the interior of the houses with the shape seen from the outside. Elf houses are generally round. If they were square, there would be no problem. Right?
Elves always have to complicate everything.
Yeah. There will be no stately housing. Location of a house will be the determining factor over features this time. There will be 3 types of houses: 2 basic, 4 deluxe, and 1 kinship. So stately houses. Okay, were those the middle ones? Okay, so 2, 4, 1. So there'll only be 7 houses in the Rivendell neighborhoods then. So it'll be a nice, tight, cozy neighborhood. They haven't even considered. Yeah, probably. They haven't even considered prices at this point. They would like to remind people that they don't like sharing a price before the official one has been made, even when players are testing them out on Roller. We don't want to scare or shock people with estimations before a final amount is determined. And there will be no new hook types for Rivendell housing. As for other items, there is an automatic system to place or roll to in place to roll out new neighborhoods when existing ones become populated. How this is calculated is based on the kinship house and the total number of houses. Whether or not a neighborhood ran out of chase houses is not part of the formula. Whether it be the entire whether it should be is entirely up for debate. So that means there, for example, is there's one house that everybody wants and those houses are all taken, but all the other houses are not yet taken. That is not something that's going to trigger a new neighborhood to be opened up. The team is happy that World of Warcraft is finally getting housing after all this time. Some of their friends are over there working on the game right now. Okay, I guess some of their friends. Okay, I guess. Okay, some of the friends of the LOTRO team, I guess they mean. And there needs to be a balance when it comes to whether players receive a refund for an abandoned house. It is something they go back and forth on in discussions. They do want a friendly experience in buying a house, but they also want to put some pressure on players sticking with the game to maintain one. They have to consider server, storage, and other internal components, in addition to how a player feels when they return to the game after being away for a long period of time. All right, so that's sort of the transcript they have in there, and that's the housing Q&A. Housing Q&A, as I said, the answers were being conducted by Scenario and Celestrata Bloodsong, and the transcript was written by Weird Jedi. All right. So I'm assuming that this is going to be reasonably accurate since Cordovan didn't list any corrections in there.
And Cordovan did reply.
Yeah, he did reply. Yeah, he was the first reply on it, and he did reply. He says, thanking Weird Jedi for posting it. And finally, for game news, the LOTRO community guidelines have been updated, but there have been no substantial changes in this update. They're just doing tweaks to it in order for the format to be consistent with that being used by other Daybreak games. So therefore, these are the Daybreak community rules and guidelines that were last updated on July 2nd, 2020. Why on the earth, if it was posted July 22nd, 2025, did they post a link to it now? It's like,
great question.
Well, were they waiting for it to be localized for 2 months or something? I don't know. Anyway, that's it for our game news. So let's head out into our store sales. And Sans, what's on sale this week?
This week, you can unleash your potential with 20% off Deed Boosts, Universal Solvents, Universal Morale and Power Potions, and Black Steel Keys through September 4th. There's also a weekly coupon, Fall Injury Immunity ×5, with the coupon code, OW! My legs! That would be OWMYLEGS. Also now through September 4th.
I feel like that's the most relevant coupon code ever.
I love this coupon code.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's a great coupon code. Let's into our week in gaming. Krister, what were you up to?
Well, I did something I haven't really put much effort into, which was figuring out why my LIs were incompatible with one another, and I figured it out. And now I have a blue, yellow, and red swap. So now everything is a little bit better in the world of the Captain Tank. And then I got to hang out at the party tree. You see, now I don't really collect tokens or do anything until winter comes, because the Winterfest is where I do all my activities, and then I just token exchange if I want to get anything new. But what I really like doing is showing up to the party tree and with my giant fancy horse and my glowing shield and my good looks, and just hanging out, watching everybody kind of cluster around me, going ooh ah. It's pretty amazing, frankly. In fact, I think what I am is really another attraction at the party tree, really, when you get right down to it. So that was my joy in Lotro. I'm
Especially
ready.
if you use the SOS emote.
You
Then that
know
would be
what?
slightly mean.
It would be kind of interesting to do it nowadays to see how many people you catch. Because I'll never forget when that first came out, and that one person was standing there with that ring, and there was like 100 people around him, and because I was around him too. Why can't I click on this guy? Why can't I click on this quest? What the heck is that? Wait. Oh. So I bet you can. I bet you could catch a lot of people with that, though. That's not a bad idea, Sans. I'll have to do that. But now I'll have to come up with a new disguise to disguise myself. Can't disguise my name, but maybe just create a throwaway tune. Just, one of the many Valors I still have in the bank. Just Valor it up.
Exactly.
Horse grants it right in front of everybody, and then so I'm this week was kind of game sporadic as it was with everything else, because the heat is in Seattle, and it's very disruptive. So I'm looking forward to winter. Played a little bit of Age of Wonders 4 and played some ESO, and that was my week. And Sans, what were you up to?
Well, in Lotro, I did some more questing for Elisar in his newly reclaimed kingdom. And that was pretty fun. And did some questing in the Angle on the field trip after fixing my armor to better match my level, because I logged in on a level 41 character and discovered I was wearing level 25 armor. Which is a slight discrepancy.
Yeah. But the barrel gear stays relevant for a pretty long time before it really needs to be replaced.
Yeah, I was really glad they didn't just unequip it at 35. That would have been really rude and sad. Because it was better than a lot of the other armor that I looked at when I was looking to maybe upgrade it. And I played some DDO and transferred a few more alts. I got one more out of I think it's Korthos. And yeah, that was pretty fun.
Oh, that's what you just reminded me of what I missed in the stories.
Oh?
Oops. The coupon code for... No, I'm not talking about All My Legs, but the coupon code for...
Oh, the other coupon code.
Yes. Yeah, the other coupon code.
We should definitely add that in. That's important.
Yes.
And...
Okay. And
good.
And the reason why I thought of that suddenly is because DDO is going to be getting their coupon code in about a week or two.
Oh, cool.
So you'll get some nice content at that point.
That will be nice. And I started a Ragnarok world in Ark Survival Ascended, and smashing boxes on the beach resulted in lots of good loot, and that was a lot of fun. And that was pretty much my week in gaming. How was your week, Pineleaf?
All right. Well, in my another round group, which is a group a couple weeks ago, we reset to level 1, got some new characters, and started running around. So we've been questing in Swan Fleet and all that stuff. So this week we were recruiting some of my namesakes in order to help repair some bridges. Meaning that we were chopping down pines to get some wood.
Poor Pines.
Yeah, poor Pines, yes. And in DDO, I completed the Chill of Ravenloft expansion content. And then I also was playing some Aotenjo, and working with that and continuing to get some better scores there. And that's it for my week in gaming. And it looks like that we now have a link to the free questing coupon. And thank you from Standing Stone Games. We would like to thank you for supporting us now through November 3rd, 2025. You can enter a special coupon code through redeem code in the LOTRO store inside the game to unlock a trove of quest packs for free. You get a full list on LOTRO.com. Actually, this link is to LOTRO.com, so the
So it's kind
complete
of
list
weird.
is actually below. Yes.
Yes.
Weird wording for that. All right. The coupon code is Explore Our World, one per account, available to redeem through November 3rd. The coupon code will grant the following to your game account: the following quest packs: Central Gondor, East Gondor, West Gondor, Old Anorian, the region pack, Far Anorian, back to quest packs for March of the King, Battle of the Black Gate, Legacy of the Necromancer, Where Dragons Dwell, The Vales of Anduin, Mists of Wilderland, and the Wildwood, and also the Further Adventures of Bilbo Baggins, quest pack the Bledavazag, The Rangers and Ruins, Yondershire, then the Further Adventures of Elladan and Elro here, and then the quest packs for Mordor, Minas Morgul, War of the Three Peaks, and Fate of Gundabad. I think that anything that is before this point is already free. So essentially, when you have this coupon code, then anything prior to Gundabad is essentially free. I don't know about. I don't know what the current status is of Cardalon and Swanfleet. Were those ever made free, or are those still
I don't remember.
paid? Yeah, I can't remember what their status is on there, because I know they're not on this list, but I don't know whether that's because they're not included in the coupon or whether at some point they made them free because they're low level. I don't know. Additionally, enjoy a limited time sale on selected expansion quests in the LOTRO store, where you'll be able to pick up the following items for only 99 points through November 3rd: the Instance Cluster, Return to Karn Doom, and the quest pack Gondor Renewed. We thank you for being a part of the Lord of the Rings Online. I would think that if it wasn't already free, this one thing Mossbar I think would have been included with the limited sale, but I don't remember that. In any case, free questing coupon with a large amount of questing power for you. And that is it for our news. If you have any feedback for us, you can send us an email at podcast@lotraplayers.com. The Players Alliance has 2 shows. On Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we record LOTRO Players News, and we record DDO Players News when DRAC is available. You guys Twitter shows at LOTROplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight. And this is Paladin Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.